What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 2 of MyFandom Cast with your host, Dave Sturchio, right here on the MyFandom YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen, it is Monday, the following Monday after week 1 in the NFL, and you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of overreactions. You're going to get a lot of, I don't know what the hell to think about this, or you're going to get a lot of overhype, and you don't know how to feel about a couple things. But yes, week 1 is in the books already. We have one more hill to climb tonight with the New York Jets and the San Francisco 49ers, and we'll get to that at the end of this show. But first, we're obviously going to go around the world week 1, right? We're going to go over some major storylines that have hit week 1. And then, of course, I'm going to get into something called Don't Be Scared, homie. Meaning, look, you might have lost week 1, but, like, it's not your team. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to work out. And you're going to be a dominating team. Maybe not dominating team, but what you looked like in week 1 may not translate through the rest of the season. So without further ado, let's get into week number 1. And it was a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. When I say doozy, as a Cowboy fan, you're excited about stuff like this. You get into week 1 and you completely dominate. You completely, from Jump Street, you get over the hump of all the speculation. And before we can get into that, I also want to congratulate Mr. Rain Dakota Prescott. On Sunday morning, before the 1 o'clock kicks, we got the news that Dak Prescott had secured the bag one more time and signed a new 4-year, brand shiny spanking new contract. 4 years, $260 million. And let me tell you something. I'm sorry, $240 million. I was giving him 20 more extra. Why not, right? Why not? But listen, it's a massive deal. It's a massive guaranteed deal. You look at around the league and you look at somebody like Deshaun Watson who got a massive guaranteed deal, and that's not turning out to be very good. With Dak Prescott, it's simple. And more Cowboys coverage you can find on the Jersey Boys podcast that goes down tomorrow. So in case you're wondering how my other colleagues feel about this, we'll get into that tomorrow. But for me, it's very simple. And I've said this time and time again. Franchise quarterbacks just don't, fall out of the sky. They don't grow on trees. You got to make sure you got your guy. Do the Cowboys have their guy? I think it's pretty apparent that they have their guy. Postseason success? No, not yet, right? He's got a couple playoff wins under his belt. There's a win over Seattle. There was a win over Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. Basically shoved him out of town, put him in the broadcast booth, which, by the way, not everybody's made for the broadcast booth, and I'm sure he'll get better. But he's no Tony Romo. But yeah, so with the new contract, Dak Prescott was next in line. Okay, that's how it works. Like, I understand there's a lot of people, he's not worth the money. He's not worth all that. Oh, my God. Well, you guys aren't understanding how this whole thing works. Dak was up for a contract. His 4 years had ran out. It's over. He was ready to walk out the door, and the Dallas Cowboys had to make a move before the season started, because if you risk and you play Russian roulette with the salaries that people are giving out nowadays, you would have lost Dak Prescott. There's no doubt in my mind he would have walked out. I understand. Look, he's a new dad. He's got his family. He's got his massive backyard in Texas. It's called the Dak Yard, right? He's got his whole thing, right? Why relocate? Well, money talks. And I feel like a team like the Giants or a team like the Raiders or a team, I don't know, maybe there's trouble in Washington even after Jaden Daniels. I don't know. But you were gonna lose your franchise quarterback, and I think Jerry Jones finally understood that. And why they dragged their feet, I have no idea. I really don't. Ultimately, Jerry Jones has caved to every single major player that has ever been due for a contract, whether it be Dez Bryant, DeMarcus Lawrence, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott on his first deal. These deals, the deadlines, they make the deals, and they got CeeDee Lamb locked up a couple weeks ago, and then you get Dak Prescott done, and now they're locked up for 4 more years as Dallas Cowboys. So there's optimism in the air that they could deliver and hopefully get us over that hump and whatever. But this isn't a Dallas Cowboys show. I'll get to the Cowboys-Browns game. Just to, again, a friendly recap, have you, right? The more in-depth analysis will come from the Jersey Boys podcast, but I will say the Dallas defense was the one thing that a lot of people weren't overly impressed with as far as personnel, right? You lose a couple pieces here and there. You lose DeRon Bland to an injury. Who's going to step up? And they stepped up, and they gave Deshaun Watson a friggin' fit, okay? They gave him the business. Now, look, mind you, the Browns had 2 offensive tackles down, And then they made another switch in the second half where I don't know if it was injury related or just straight up performance related. They made another switch at tackle in the third quarter. The Cowboys' first half was incredible. Okay, incredible. They looked very, very good, like a well-oiled machine, specifically for the sole purpose of the Dallas Cowboys. They just refused to play any starters of note in the preseason. There was no snaps taken by Dak, none taken by Zeke, none taken by Amari Cooper, none taken by CeeDee Lamb, none taken by most of the offensive line. Even guys like Jalen Tolbert were getting a pass. I don't know what it was about that one, but what I will say is for September football, which Mike McCarthy alluded to after the game, this is September football, meaning you're not going to hit your stride right away. But for them to jump up and jump on top of the Browns that quick and that dominant, it says something. It does. And I'm not one of these guys who 1-0 and we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm saying like they look good for a week one team that didn't get to gel a lot in the preseason outside of either joint practices or just, whatever joint activity they have. You didn't have game speed, and what they showed was game speed in the first half. Second half, I don't want to say they dialed it back, but I do want to say the Browns played a better game, and the score doesn't really dictate how it all went yesterday because that one touchdown by the Browns was in garbage time. 33-17 is the final. And I think, like I said, I think the Cowboys look very well. And we'll see. It was good to see Zeke get in the end zone. For all you, he's washed, right? Well, guess what? He scored a touchdown in the NFL. So tell me which washed player can do that still. And I think Zeke proved a lot of doubters wrong. His first run, he hit you with a Zeke leap, right? Was called back on a penalty, unfortunately. But what I will say is they have themselves 3 formidable running backs. And, oh, by the way, Dalvin Cook is waiting in the wings. So how they work him into the system, do they work him into the system? There was a catastrophic injury avoided, just like the Packers that went down on Friday night in Brazil. You saw that Jordan Love avoided season-ending stuff, and he'll probably miss a couple games. But Jake Ferguson, who I predicted could be a top 3, top 5 tight end in the NFL this year, he went down with a hyperextension. They're ruling out ACL. I'm sure we'll get news as I record this, but hopefully they avoided any kind of long-term injury with tight end number 1. But Hunter Lipke played well. He played decent in the absence because he's a fullback, but he can kind of line up anywhere. And he took a lot of reps in the preseason at tight end. So we'll see how that all pans out. But the Cowboys get themselves a good win. Let's, give them their flowers and bravo, Dallas. You did good. Get that number 1 win and then get your ass ready to go for New Orleans in week 2. Other things that stood out to me, I won't go over every single game. There's scores. It's easy to dictate scores. But things that stood out to me were the fact that I'm pretty sure, if you roll back the tape, I'm pretty sure I said the Giants were going to win on Sunday. And the Giants picked up right where they left off. And that's pretty bad. Remember, this is Sam Darnold coming in there. J.J. McCarthy injured in the preseason. The Vikings, you look at a guy like Justin Jefferson, Jay Jetta, he is quarterback proof because he still balled out and did his thing at the Meadowlands. The biggest concern right now is Daniel Jones. Look, Giants fans some have already thrown in the towel for the 2024 season as long as Daniel Jones is the quarterback. Now, you don't have a formidable backup. You have Drew Lock, and I'm not saying that they're going to make a switch because they can't. They can't, right? But the problem is, what do you do? Now, I know my next segment is going to be like, don't worry about it. You're not as bad as that loss. The Giants might be as bad as that loss. When you get dominated at home like that in front of your home crowd, I already secured my tickets for week 4 where the Giants take on the Cowboys because a season ticket holder, a friend of mine, already gave them away. He said, you know what? You can have them at face value. I can't watch this team. And I know that the Giants fans are very disappointed in what Daniel Jones has given you since he's been here. But I'm here to tell you this, and it's not being talked about enough. Like, when guys like Caleb Williams comes out of college, he's coming from USC, right? A big program with big-time opponents. All of these quarterbacks that are coming out of college typically have themselves a decent schedule to go against. They're going to have some big games against big-time opponents. When you guys, and I talk to you guys, I say Daniel Jones. There was a Dave Gettleman pick for the Giants. But when the Giants picked Daniel Jones that early in that draft, you scratched your head because, A, he wasn't, who they were touting, right? But B, all you have to do is look at the opponents. Duke football has not been on the radar of any like top 25 or anything like that. Like, I honestly, like, I know they have a program, but if you ask the common person, hey, did you watch that Duke football game? They're probably like, oh, I just thought they had a basketball team, right? Like, no, they have a football team, and that's the problem because Daniel Jones lights up the scoreboard and shows athleticism, shows Josh Allen type tendencies, plus the picks, but he's showing you that he's got this skill set where the Giants, their eyes look big, and he could be Eli. He could be that even keel, not going to light up the scoreboard, but will get that job done, and there will be a couple ill-advised passes, but they'll get that job done and turn it into wins and Super Bowls and all that shit, similar to what Eli did. You didn't get that. You didn't get Eli Manning. What you got is Archie Manning, right? Because, and no offense to Archie, I know, but he's, of all the Mannings that we're talking about, even Arch Manning is looking pretty good down in Texas right now as a backup. But, like, this Daniel Jones experiment is over, and it's over right now, and I don't know what you do here. Because if you think about it, let's just pretend arbitrarily that the Giants roll off, 6 or 7 wins this season. And I don't see it because I said the Giants would be in the top 3 of the draft next year. They need to be in the top 3 of the draft next year, okay? Because if they don't, how are you landing your next franchise quarterback not named Daniel Jones or Daniel Jones-like? Because if you take a quarterback down the road in the draft, whether it be, a 15th pick or 4, I get it. You're going to find decent picks down the back stretch. I don't know what free agency looks like. I don't know what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do, considering they have Russell and Justin Fields. I don't know a lot about the quarterback situation right now in most teams because it's only week 1. But when the Giants fans are throwing in the towel already, that's big news, right? That's alarming stuff coming out of New York because New York is such full of pride, and look at all their sports across the board. The Knicks are going to have a fantastic, fun season to look forward to. The Rangers are a good hockey team, and they're always a couple wins away from making it back to the Stanley Cup. The Yankees and the Mets are both in it at the end, whether the Yankees look like shit right now and the Mets look like they're surging, which, their 9-game winning streak got snapped yesterday. But what I will say is New York has this presence about them that we're supposed to be winners. And for the New York Giants and to win it in 2007 and then 2011, they haven't seen any kind of relevance since that year. That's been 13 years of irrelevant football. And it starts with the Odell Beckham bullshit, and it starts with the other, these problems you run into, the kicking out of Eli Manning to break his streak, right? It all starts there. And now it's troubling, right? It's troubling. It's not a good situation to be in if you're the New York Giants. And I think that ultimately it will lead to something happening where you have to make a move and quick. And again, week 1, is this an overreaction? I don't know. Ask any Giants fan you know. It's not an overreaction right now. It really isn't. And I think that there's going to be some decisions to be made, and I think the New York Giants ultimately have to move on. And I'm sure the Giants fans will embrace this because shout out to the Giants fans booing their quarterback after postgame. That's some brutal shit, man. He's already had himself a terrible day. He feels awful. And now you're going to boo him and heckle him outside the stadium. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves, honestly. You should be goddamn ashamed of yourselves because that's your quarterback. You got to ride with him for now, right? Like, what are you going to do? What's your other move? You don't have one. So in order for this to work, you can't just, and I hate that whole tanking shit. NFL players don't tank. Contracts are not all guaranteed. Everybody out there is going to suit up and go to war for their guy. Daniel Jones might not be the guy, but he's your guy right now. He's your guy right now. You can't screw around with this. So, we'll see what happens. Another big-time quarterback scenario yesterday was the play of Anthony Richardson. And while I know they lost the game ultimately to a very good Texans team who are loaded, Stephon Diggs made himself right at home very quick. But when I look at the Colts and I look at what Anthony Richardson was able to do, that dude has a cannon for an arm. Okay, he has a cannon for an arm. He's a big, tough individual. And oh, by the way, he's got guys that have not scratched the surface yet in his receiving core. And I understand that when you look at them overall, you're like, okay, well, it's Pittman. He's good. And right, and you have Alec Pierce and a couple kids coming on, right? he doesn't have this star-studded cast, but imagine if he did. Imagine if the Colts make a move to get a wide receiver over there. Now, I think Pittman's good, and I think that Pierce is very good too. But when you look at the Colts on the surface, you're like, okay, they got a good quarterback. Jonathan Taylor is, he looked pretty good yesterday for not, having a down year, some would say, right? The Colts are going to be pretty good. They should have probably wound up in my next segment, but the Colts are going to be a good team, and I think that in that division where the Jaguars didn't look promising, only putting up 17 points against Miami, in Miami, which that got interesting very early, but I'm not talking about the game. But I won't talk about that because I'm not a law enforcement official, and I was starting to tweet off my thumbs real quick. I'm like, I can't believe this just happened. But I'm like, all right, you know what, Dave? You don't know what just happened. So just everybody calm down. But when you look at the Colts and you look at that division, there's going to be some winnable games within the division, right? I mean, the Texans are going to be fun to watch, right? And the next time the Colts play the Texans, this one's going to be a fun one, right? But Anthony Richardson showed me a lot. And he showed me that he's going to be just fine in this league, health providing, right? So health, all things considered, health is a big thing right now in which you got to just be careful because, he went down with the shoulder. Last night, kind of fell asleep, was in and out of sleep, but the Lions take one, a big win over a really good Rams team. And Puka Nacua, we're going to find out more as this happens because he's one of the darlings that everybody loves. But don't forget about Cooper Kupp, man. Why is his average draft position in fantasy drafts was absurd. The dude is still filthy, right? And he had himself a night last night, considering the fact that Puka went down. He had to dial it up. Matt Stafford, probably one of the toughest quarterbacks in the NFL. Every time that dude gets rocked, it looks like his season could be over, right? But he gets right back up, right? He's chumba fucking wumba. But anyway, over that, the Buccaneers, big win over the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn's head coaching debut with the Commanders is spoiled. They put up 37 points. And look, the Bucs look pretty good, right? They did. And Baker Mayfield, look, I'm one to tell you that boo-hoo Baker is a thing, right? When Baker Mayfield gets upset, he becomes this he's like pouting on the sidelines. Right now, you don't look like that. And Mike Evans, stop sleeping on this guy. I don't understand. Like, as the years go on, he's Benjamin Button of the NFL. He keeps getting better. He made an insane catch yesterday in that 37-20 route. And like I said, Mike Evans is a stud. He will always be a stud. And, oh, by the way, Chris Godwin had himself a day too. So they got weapons over there, and they got a crazy good running game as well. Watch out for the Bucs, And, again, they're in a division where it's obtainable, right? Because if you look at their counterparts, the Saints absolutely destroyed the Panthers, and the Panthers look like absolute shit. You're not going to find a Panthers fan out there that is optimistic about what they saw yesterday because it just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And when you look at the grand scheme of what the Panthers could possibly offer you this year, it's not much, right? It's not much. And the 47-10 score does dictate how that went. Bryce Young is turning out to be one of these guys where you're like, all right, I got it wrong. We got it wrong as an organization. And what you can do to rectify that is not get it wrong next time. And definitely don't pay the guy money because you don't know what he's going to warrant once his contract's up. And like I said to everybody, this is how this shit works. Like, if your contract's up and you're Bryce Young and you're young and you have this youth on your side, you got to show something on tape. He's in the Daniel Jones conversation where I don't know if you can even remotely think about doing this again, right? Going down this road again. I'm not sure if you could do that, but it'll be interesting to see if they could pull that off. The big win, we'll get into it in a minute. The Chiefs obviously took down on opening night. We saw that. Isaiah Likely is a dog. You got to watch out for him, and specifically Mark Andrews owners like myself on fantasy. That sucked. But look, Isaiah Likely is a stud. He's a stud athlete, and the Ravens looked pretty good despite the fact that they lost by a toe. So that sucked. Other things that sucked were seeing the Eagles win their first opener, but again, their first game. But again, the Packers will be fine. They avoided catastrophic news. When I saw the video of Jordan Love's knee, looked like it popped out, I'm like, oh my God. My heart sank for my business partner, Chris Gucci, like a big Packers guy. I sank for the Packers because I know that feeling. I've seen it. Dak Prescott's ankle got turned the other way once upon a time, and it was not fun at all to deal with that throughout the course of the season. So the Packers avoided that loss. They didn't avoid the loss. The Eagles get it done 34-29. They brought in Malik Willis to try a Hail Mary. Couldn't even get the pass off, so that sucked. But yeah, so overall, decent. The Chargers also, Jim Harbaugh's debut, he gets a win 22-10 over the Raiders. That was expected to me. I did not see that not happening like that. The Seahawks get a win over the Broncos. That wasn't really exciting. Not much to it. But so leading into my next, at least one more game, is to watch the Bears of what they did. Now, look, I'm a Hard Knocks guy. I'm a football junkie. I can't get off of Hard Knocks. I can't quit Hard Knocks. No matter how bad and cringeworthy it gets, I can't quit Hard Knocks. I love it. So to follow the Bears throughout the entire summer, I was like, you know what? They got something here. They do. And I don't know what it is, because you have yourselves a decent division. Before J.J. McCarthy went down, you thought the Vikings would be in it. The Detroit Lions are obviously right there. The Packers are going to be good, right? So you're looking at the Bears like, all right, no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to get out of the North. When you're down that much in the beginning and you grit your way to a win, that shows something. And Caleb Williams didn't have to be the superstar that he could be. He doesn't have to be. He didn't have to be. The Bears were able to gut out a win, and a big win, because there's going to be weeks where Caleb Williams does go off and the Bears are going to look really, really good. But if you could pull off wins like this, it goes a long, long way in your NFL season. And I understand we're very early, but the Bears looked like they have a well-rounded team, right? Besides the star quarterback that you hope he is, you're always going to have DJ Moore. You're always going to have, Keenan Allen now, who, came up limp. He always kind of does that every year. He comes up just hobbling off of something. But he's another gritty dude that just won't stop. The defense looked good. Simone, whatever her name is, Simone, the gold medalist, her husband takes a big play to the house, right? So the Bears, they look good, man. They do. And I think they're in for a decent year. Again, the division's going to be tough, so don't get too crazy, but you never know. But to move on to my next segment, don't be scared, homie. These teams lost their games, their openers, but I wouldn't really go nuts about it. Starting with the Bengals. I understand, look, a feel-good win for Jared Mayo and the New England Patriots over the Bengals. Joe Burrow looked lost. He didn't have anybody to throw to. You had Jamar Chase that was wondering if he was going to play all the way to kickoff. T. Higgins was ruled out on Friday. He had nobody to throw to, right? So there's no offensive weapons there. And, of course, they're high on their new running back. With the departure of Joe Mixon. They got Mike Gesicki in there, who had a touchdown and a gritty taken back. But look, the Bengals are going to be okay. And I think that Joe Burrow is going to be fine. Joe is a very, very good quarterback. I'm firmly entrenched in their organization right now and thinking that the Bengals will be okay even after a disturbing opening week loss at home. Maybe not wear the orange jerseys anymore, right? It was like you look like a fucking traffic cone. All right, so let's not do that. Right, another team that I could put in that same category is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Steelers, they did pull off a nice gritty win, and again, they ruled out Russell Wilson, I think like hours before game time. It was going to be Justin Fields' show. George Pickens looked the part. Najee Harris looked good. I think that the Steelers are going to be, again, a grinded-out type deal team. But it's the Falcons that I was kind of concerned about for a minute, but then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, Bijan Robinson's a stud. I picked them to win the South, so I think that they're still going to be on pace to do that eventually. Maybe not off the rip because, again, you lose one early. That's tough. It is an AFC loss at the end of the day. Now I'm making excuses for them, but it is an AFC loss. Unfamiliar opponent, and Kirk Cousins is getting his feet under him. You still got Drake London down there. Kyle Pitts finally showed out a little bit, so I think the Falcons are going to be fine. I wouldn't be that concerned. But what I would be concerned about a little bit is if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you could be concerned. But if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, maybe a little optimism, right? That Kyler Murray looked like Kyler Murray. The Kyler Murray that ran a good offense in that system, Kyler Murray. He's got more weapons down there. Trey McBride, a little quiet. Marvin Harrison Jr., a little quiet. Dortch lit it up, right? So Greg Dortch showing you why he should be talked about a little bit. But overall, the Cardinals might be okay, and that doesn't poise well for teams like the Rams and the Niners and the Seahawks, right? Because now you got a team that might actually compete. And that was on the road, man. That was on the road. It was a hostile environment in Buffalo. For Buffalo to almost lose that game is alarming. And then you have the Josh Allen turnover effect, but then Josh Allen becomes that unicorn, and he takes it himself from a couple yards out, flipping over the guys, right? Like, so Josh Allen's going to be fine, too. He did bang up his non-throwing hand, but I'm sure he's going to be okay. Something to monitor, though, because of the fact that there's a short week with them playing the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. But overall, yeah, my preface of this segment was to ease the fans of Cincinnati and Atlanta, because I just don't think that what they showed on tape early yesterday, week one, it's not the end of the world. It's just not. And I think they're going to be okay. But yeah, so again, a lot to get into. Obviously, there's a lot of different shows that I do each and every week. There's one more hill to climb tonight in the NFL, and that goes to the Jets and the 49ers. Now, look, I picked the Jets to win the AFC, right? I'm not backing up on that. But I will say this is a massive test for the Jets early on. It's a test to see where they stand as an organization, because you have Aaron Rodgers back post-injury, right? Remember, keep in mind, if the Jets were in it last year, remotely in it, there was a chance that Rodgers would have gutted out the craziest comeback of all time, but he didn't. They decided not to do it and give him all the time in the world to get back to 100% health. Do his ayahuasca over the offseason, right? Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Aaron Rodgers is a California kid. He's very familiar with playing in California, whether it be at Cal or, just familiar with it. The 49ers are... I spoke about this on another show, and I felt like they do have the most weapons on offense probably in the NFL, between one of the better players in the league, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, who is a Swiss Army knife, can do it all. And now, oh, by the way, Brandon Ayuk gets paid. He's happy. He's there. George Kittle is still a dog. Trent Williams gets his deal, right? So it's like the Niners are well equipped to make a run. My question, and again, people give me shit, but my question is Brock Purdy. Is Brock Purdy the guy? Now, look, where they got to last year, great. You get back to the Super Bowl, look, that's great. But unfortunately, to me at least, for somebody who has a team that hasn't sniffed the conference championship round since 95, I look at Brock Purdy as a game managing. He can lace it. He can dump it in. I get it. He's got some serious skill. But tonight, that Jets defense will be all over him, and it's going to be an interesting scene. The winner of this game, again, the loser of this game, I would put in my don't be scared homie category, because no matter what, both of these teams, barring any catastrophic injury that happens tonight, are going to be fine. But the winner of this game tonight is really going to feel good about themselves. They really are, because this is gritty. This is prime time. The whole world's watching. Everybody's kind of decompressing from week one. Can you get the win on prime time? In prime time, it would be more impressive, obviously, if the Jets went across the entire nation and shocked the entire world. And I would say shocked, because I'm picking them to win this game. I am. I'm picking the Jets tonight. And if you look back at my 6-pack of picks in week one, okay, remember, I picked the Giants. I picked the Packers. Fuck. Right? So, but I did pick the Cowboys, right? I picked the Cowboys to win. I did pick the Chiefs to win. I'm pretty sure, where was I? I can't remember the other games I picked, but I think I went like 500. And tonight I'm picking the Jets. I picked the Jets last week. I'm going to pick them now. I'm not going to sit here and, backtrack my thoughts. But I will pick the Jets to win this game. And I think that Aaron Rodgers does enough. I don't see him lighting the scoreboard up. It's San Francisco after all. But I think the Jets can come out of this with a win, and a win against the 49ers in week one of this 2024 season. And, you don't turn the ball over, and Breece Hall looks good and all that stuff. The Jets fans will be very, very optimistic that they can easily take over New York, because what you see, across the hallway is not good. But the Jets have a chance to really, really capture the fan base right now, right off the rip. You punch San Francisco in the mouth, you will be able to get the fans excited about the 2024 campaign. As far as score goes, I don't know, 27-23, right? The Jets are going to give up points. It's not like they're flawless, but the Jets just have to score more. So give me the Jets by 4. I don't know if that's going to play out the way it's going to play out. I might have egg all over my face by next week. But tune in all week long for your sports coverage. You got here on MyFandom Cast, and obviously you got the Jersey Boys podcast if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. More sports content coming your way. If you're a professional wrestling fan, plenty of content over there, whether it be the Wrestling Hour, Fight Factory podcast. There's a lot going on. So we'll get more into this. Obviously, next week, we'll talk about the complete fallout. I'm not going to make any picks. It's too ridiculous to make picks at this point on a Monday for week 2. I don't do that, so maybe I'll come up with some kind of graphic to give you my picks every Thursday, and maybe I'll pick the whole league, right, just to see where I stand. But again, week 1 didn't go my way as far as the picks go. Fantasy-wise, I won 1, lost 1, or I'm winning 1. And if Rodgers has a 50-point performance, then that will shut down my my win. I did lose because of last night's Jahmyr Gibbs took over. I didn't get anything out of Njoku, who might be out for a little while. I do have Dalton Schultz kind of hanging on the bench. It's not a bad guy to have on the bench. I do have Anthony Richardson, which is why I was high on him in this program. But it all remains to be seen. It's week 1. It's not the end of the world for a lot of teams. 16 teams by tomorrow will be 1-0. 16 teams will be 0-1. And only a small handful of the 0-1 teams, like the Giants, like the Panthers, those teams are going to have some tough sledding weeks ahead unless they turn it around. And again, I don't like the Giants. Obviously, I hate the Giants, right? But I do have a lot of colleagues and a lot of friends of mine that are Giants fans, and I think that this is the chance for them to turn it around. So we'll see. We shall see. So with that being said, this has been another episode of MyFandom Cast. I hope you're joining along each and every week. Sooner or later, this is going to be a live show to talk to the masses when I'm ready, right? But I just want to get my feet wet. This show definitely went better than the first one. The first one, I felt like I rushed. I'm going to try to keep it to, a half hour or so. I don't really want to go too long-winded because obviously there's a lot to do, a lot to prep for each and every week. Got to get the gym in, right? I got to get all that stuff done. Tomorrow, I turn 39 years old, and it's depressing at this point. I used to be huge on my birthday. I used to be like, yo, it's my birthday. Let's celebrate. Here we go, right? Another year, blah, blah, blah. But as I get older, I'm just like, oh, shit. not so much I'm running out of time per se, but, it's just, it's alarming, right? You want to be in certain places in your life, and sometimes it all doesn't work out that way. But there's still time. There's still time. So, hope everybody enjoys Monday Night Football. Go Jets. Get it done. For my boy Nick Shine and all you other Jets fans out there, good luck tonight. I will see you guys next week right here on MyFandom Cast. And don't forget, the whole point of this whole thing is to download that app right now. If you went to that giant abysmal loss, if you go to the Jets games, if you go to any game across the entire U.S., please log the game on MyFandom. It's your chance to store all of your memories of being at these places, because I know with my tickets secured, I can't wait to take all the pictures that I take at the Giants-Dallas game. I can't wait for that shit. I haven't missed the Giants-Dallas game in years. I'm still trying to maybe get out to Dallas this year. We'll see about that. I'll kind of go over the schedule and see if it works, maybe around the holidays. I don't know. We'll figure it all out. But download the MyFandom app. It is coming to Android as well. It's already done on iOS. Get it on Android soon. Log all your games, your photos, your videos, your memorabilia, anything you get from these games, log it. Because guess what? It's there forever. It's not going to go anywhere. So now you have an app that you can put everything into one. Do that tonight on the MyFandom app. Download it today. It's free. There's no catch, guys. There's no catch. I promise you. I would tell you, watch out for that hidden dollar. None. $0. Zero, right? So just do that and download the app. And we'll see you guys next time right here on MyFandom Cast. Good night, everybody.